What's up, guys? This is Dan for BladeReviews.com taking a look at the Benchmade Griptilian. The Griptilian is really a modern classic and one of my personal favorites. It actually happens to be one of the first quote-unquote real knives that I bought for myself back when I first started getting into nicer pocket knives and stuff. So I've had this one for about, I want to say 3.5 to 4 years, and have a fair amount of experience with it. You know, I've just had it in my rotation, and it keeps coming back into my pocket. You know, I keep picking it up, and I still like this knife quite a lot, despite it being, you know, the first knife that I bought and not really being too educated on the subject of knives. So I think I really got lucky and picked out a great one. So let's do this review here. So hopefully, if you're looking for a Griptilian, perhaps I can offer you some advice or just some insight into the knife so you can make a more informed decision than I did. Okay, so let's just start out with some quick specs here. Real quick, we've got a blade that is just under 3.5 inches, a length that is just over 8 inches, and a weight of 3.8 ounces. So definitely a full-size knife. This is not the mini Griptilian, which unfortunately I don't have any on hand right now, but that would be the subject of another review anyways. But it's a full-size knife, and for me, you know, sometimes it's a little too big for EDC, but when I can fit it into my pocket when it's working with what I'm doing that day, I definitely love carrying it. It could also be a great kind of backup emergency tactical type knife. Definitely has all the trappings of a tactical blade. So, you know, it just depends on what you're trying to do. For EDC, the mini grip might be better for you. Like I said, another review, so I'll have to maybe get one of those and do a comparison at some point. Let's talk about the blade here. I've got two versions. We'll set this guy aside and take a look at this satin finish and talk about the blade. So as you can see, this is a Mel Pardue design knife. It's got his name right on there, and it is just a classic drop point. I really love this style of blade. It this really speaks to me even now. So that's probably part of the reason why I bought it. You know, way back then. So anyhow, drop point design, nice swedge on the top. It's got a pretty stout tip on it too, considering. I mean, definitely not a pry tool, but it's got a reinforced tip with that swedge. So great for thrust cuts and stuff like that, penetrating, you know, thick materials. And it also has a high hollow grind, a high hollow grind, which is you know, very effective for slicing. So all around, just a great performer, great blade. It's got some good belly here for EDC and food prep and you know, anything else really. So now this knife is made of 154 cm stainless steel, and back in the day, this was pretty much where it was at as far as knife steels go. And today, you know, you've got some different players out there, some maybe slightly more exotic steels, and they've kind of pushed 154 cm out of the limelight. But I still love this steel. It's just a solid all-around performer. Takes a great edge, holds that edge pretty long, and you know, is still reasonably easy to sharpen and doesn't rust or corrode too easily either. So just a great steel. And as you can see here, it looks very nice with that finish that Benchmade applied to it here. And we've also got a coated version. This is my buddy's knife, and as you can see here, this is the partially serrated, which can come in handy, to be honest. Some people aren't a big fan of serrations, and I don't mind them. You know, it depends on what I'm using the knife for. But say if you're perhaps in law enforcement or want to use this as a rescue knife, the serrations can come in handy. And also, you know, if you don't have a lot of time and you're not always keeping your edge as sharp as you would like, you know, these serrations will be there, and they'll stay pretty sharp. So when you need the knife the most, these serrations could make the difference for you. So and this coating is very nice too. This is they're black. I forget what kind of coating it is, but it's definitely not a cheap coating. It's not painted on there or anything, and my buddy's knife has held up pretty well. He hasn't, you know, hard used this knife or anything, but he has used it and carried it a bit, and it seems to be almost brand new. You know, it's got a couple scratches on it, and it will definitely wear with time, like pretty much any coating. But Benchmade, they put a quality product out there, and this coating is no exception. It's a very, very nice coating and kind of cool with the all black, if I do say so. So let's talk about perhaps the most controversial aspect of this knife, and that is the FRN handles. I was just watching a video review the other day, and in the video the guy had a Griptilian in it, and I'll tell you, when I scrolled down to the comments section, all it was people saying, whether they like the FRN handles or not. It's definitely a big issue, and it's a polarizing factor for people. So I'm just going to give you my take on it. So first of all, yes, these handles are made of FRN, fiberglass reinforced nylon, which is just like a reinforced plastic, and they are very lightweight. Some people think they're kind of cheap. If you hear that, they make kind of a slightly tinny sound. But in my experience, they're very strong. So, like I said, I've had this knife for years. There's no cracking. There's no real wear on it. Yeah, I've scuffed it up a little bit, but definitely a strong handle design, and it's nice and lightweight. This knife doesn't have full liners. You can see it does have some liners in there, but they only go back to about this far, and then they're kind of tapered. They're kind of tapered in there, so it's not like a full liner, and it just reduces the weight of the knife substantially. I'm not a big weight weenie. That's not really my first thing. Is I don't look at the weight, but I'll tell you, there is a difference, and all things equal, I guess I would. I'd rather have the slightly lighter knife. So I do like these FRN scales. I think they offer something of an advantage. It really just depends on your perspective. My advice to anybody who is considering the Griptilian but are kind of hung up on the FRN scales, try and pick one up if you can before you buy it, and just see if it's for you. If you don't like plastic scales, I would consider just buying another knife, to be honest with you, because there's so many out there, and life is too short to carry a knife that you don't like. So and variety is the spice of life too. I don't, I wouldn't like to live in a world where the only knives I could buy are made with G10 and stainless steel liners. So having the option is good. So that's what I'm going to say about the handle there. Hopefully it didn't offend anybody too badly. I mean, I know it's a big issue, so it's just a matter of preference. So anyhow, let's talk about the pocket clip. Actually, the pocket clip is something I think we can all agree on, or most of us, and the clip is awesome. So it's just a standard Benchmade clip, reversible, tip-up carry, rides nice and low, good retention, doesn't tear your pockets up too much with this texturing, and it shows wear, but that's okay. This is a user for me. I definitely use this knife, and a little wear, I mean, I guess that's just part of ownership. So the pocket clip is great. The ergonomics are also very nice on this knife too. They're nothing outstanding. You don't have like a really nice choil or anything like that, but it's a full-size knife, and you can get a full-size grip on there, forward, reverse, whatever. I'm not a knife fighter, so I know people have different grips, but I'm sure that the knife would be able to accommodate pretty much any type of grip, and even up to pretty large hand sizes. So it's a good sturdy handle, and you do have some jimping on top, and actually the jimping is a little bit sharper with the black coated version, which I've noticed in a lot of other knives too. They seem to, the satin finish seems to round the corners a little bit, but so you got a good thumb ramp. There is some jimping. It's not super sharp on this knife, but it should help hold your thumb in place. Of course, being the Griptilian, they've applied this very grippy, checkered, textured pattern, and I think that's pretty good. For me, since I'm left-handed, my fingers end up resting on the pocket clip anyways, but I could see what they were doing, and I think it does live up to its name to some extent. It is rather grippy. And all in all, the ergonomics are pretty good. Not outstanding, but definitely good, and will do the job. Let's talk about perhaps my favorite part of this knife, and that is the deployment and the lockup. And the deployment on this thing is just super smooth. I've taken this knife apart a couple times, and the washers in here, it's got these big Foster bronze washers. They're almost as big as a quarter. I mean, maybe not that big, but they are some of the bigger washers, some of the biggest that I've seen on most of my normal folding knives. So really impressed with that. I think that's part of the reason why it's just so smooth and fast. And this is just a fun knife to open and close, and especially with this axis lock. So I'm sure most of you are well aware of what the axis lock is. It's like a Benchmade proprietary type lock, and what I like about it is it's ambidextrous, very easy to engage and disengage, and just a cool design, a lot of fun. Like the axis lock a lot. Lockup on my Griptilian is very good. It has loosened up in the past, and you might start to get a little bit of play, a little side to side, and you just tighten down that pivot screw a bit. And if you notice it happening a lot, I might suggest putting a little Loctite or something in there. But in my experience, lockup has been very good, especially considering that it is FRN handles and not full liners. So, but all in all, I'm very impressed. Guys, I guess that's pretty much it. I've run through all the major features. I do like this knife a lot. Like I said, it was one of the first ones that I've purchased, and it's stood the test of time for me. I still have it, and I do have options when I pick out which knife I'm going to carry with me that day. So the fact that the Griptilian is still making its way into my pocket, I think it says a lot. So if you're looking for a good knife, just an all-around performer, definitely consider the Griptilian. And if you have any specific questions, feel free to ask, comment, email, whatever you want to do, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. So thanks again, guys, for watching. Like I said before, this is Dan for BladeReviews.com, and I'll be catching you guys on another video soon. So thanks again. Bye-bye.